Hi guitar players, and thank you so much for joining me for this fourth blues lick lesson video here on the Guitar Inspiration channel. My name is Maarten, and in this video I'll show you how to play that tasty blues lick that you heard in the beginning of this video. It's a shuffle lick in the key of E. It's actually an outro lick, but you can use it in many different places in a 12-bar blues. I think it's a great addition to your blues lead playing. It has some fun ideas, things that will help you to build your blues chops. The lick is part of a longer blues solo that you can find on my channel. I'll put a link to that in the description. Also in the description you'll find a link to the free PDF that you can download from my blog that contains all the tabs, notation, and some useful diagrams for this lick video. So I hope you enjoy that material, and if you do, consider subscribing to the Guitar Inspiration channel. Leave me a comment, let me know if there's any other licks in one of my videos that you would like to see a lesson from. Alright, so now on to blues lick number 4. Let's dive in. This is mostly an E major blues lick, and the lick starts with a triplet pickup. First, pick the 14th fret on the B string with a downstroke, then pull off to the 12th fret and then do a hammer-on back to the 14th fret. I play this part with the ring finger on the 14th fret and the index finger on the 12th fret. Next, we're moving to the E string and we play the 12th fret with the index finger. We play this as an accented note, and I believe emphasizing this note is essential because it builds energy that needs to be discharged in the following beats of the lick. So play it powerful, make it short, so that it really stands out to the listener. I prefer playing it with a downstroke to add that little bit of extra energy. Also, I recommend moving the tip of your index finger from the B string to the E string instead of placing a bar on both B and E string. I see a lot of my students, when they play this type of licks, placing a bar on both strings, and that way you risk of letting the B string ring through the notes you're playing on the E string here. Moving your index finger, moving the tip of that index finger will turn out to be very useful. After that, we're moving to a double time rhythm. Double time simply means that the rhythm is now moving twice as fast. So we're playing 16 notes instead of the basic 8 notes that build the groove of the shuffle. And I really like double time. From a rhythmic standpoint, this adds a little bit of jazz or bebop feel to your improvising. It always makes me think of how a horn player, how a saxophone player would play these type of licks. But rest assured, harmonically speaking, this is still a blues lick. Now let's analyze that double time part. I actually play 4 groups of 3 16th notes. The first group, we're moving up. Play the 12th fret on the B string with a downstroke, play it with your index finger, and a hammer on to the 13th fret with your middle finger, and the 14th fret with your ring finger. That way we're connecting the 5th of the scale with the 6th chromatically. Next, we move to the 12th fret on the E string with an upstroke, and we do a hammer on to the 14th fret with the ring finger again, that we release with a pull off to the 12th fret. Here I think it's really important to play the 12th fret on the E string with an upstroke, because we're moving faster than in the pickup, so there's less time. We're changing strings, so it's easier to play the 12th fret with an upstroke. And again, try to move the tip of your index finger from the B string to the E string. You can perform a little roll movement, just as long as you're not barring it completely on the 12th fret. Because then you will hear the B string ring throughout. I mean, it's subtle, but it's noticeable, especially when you would play with more distortion. The third group of 3 begins on the 15th fret on the E string, and this is the flat third or the blue note in the major blues scale. I prefer playing this with my ring finger. Then I play the 14th fret with my middle finger and I pick this one with an upstroke. Then do a pull off to the 12th fret that is played with your index finger. And then we get this little roll pattern. See? And the next group of 3 notes is actually identical but played on the B string. So the picking pattern is completely the same. And this roll pattern is something that you hear very often in blues, but especially in rock and roll music. And as a side note, you can play these rolls all legato, so 1 pick per roll. Or you can do 2 picks and a pull off, like I did. Or you can pick all the notes. And this is something that you hear in Angus Young's playing from AC/DC. He likes to pick all these notes. The only difficulty when you pick all the notes is that you have to change the picking pattern because you're moving strings. After a downstroke, you have to move to an upstroke when you change to the B string. And this is a little bit more difficult, so that's why I like to pick 2 notes and do a pull off. This gives me more than enough time to change from the E string to the B string and land on the B string with a downstroke. Something about the fingering, I prefer playing it with my ring finger, my middle finger and my index finger. Now, I know some of you would prefer playing it with the pinky on the 15th fret. From a classical standpoint, I guess that would be more correct, with the ring finger on the 14th fret and the index finger on the 12th fret. But I can't perform it with enough speed and power like this, so that's why I finger it the way I showed it to you. Next, we're moving on to the G string, but we'll change the pattern a little bit. So first play the 15th fret on the G string, that's the B flat or the blue note in the minor blues scale, with a downstroke. Then we move to the 14th fret for an upstroke. And then you see we move to the next bar, and the first note is actually the 12th fret on the G string, but this is a grace note, so this note is played very quickly and it precedes the 13th fret, so the major third there on that G string. And this move from the minor third, so that grace note, the 12th fret, to the major third, that 13th fret here, is something that is very common in blues. It also acts a little bit as a surprise to the listener, because you're coming down with these rolls, so you create a certain expectation. That's what you would expect, but instead of playing that third roll like I just did, you play the major third to surprise the listener. And it also helps to give this note somewhat of an extra accent, to emphasize it, because it acts as a counterpart to the note we played on the first beat of the previous bar. That was that 12th fret here on the E string. So these 2 notes are each other's counterparts, and the double time lick serves as a mechanism to connect these 2 energy points. The outro ends on one of my favorite E7 voicings, that is this one here. It's actually in E9 voicing with the flat 7 and the bass. I did a separate video on that chord voicing. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. And you'll notice on the tap that the chord is moved chromatically down. Another classic move to end a song, a blues song. Okay, so that's blues lick number 4 for you, and I hope this will give you some inspiration for your own electric blues playing. Practice the lick slowly at first. It actually works at slower tempos as well, but you can also practice it with the backing track that is on my channel, that is 115 beats per minute. A great exercise is to use the lick in different places of a 12-bar blues. It's a 1-chord lick, but you can, for example, use it to connect the 1 chord to the 4 chord in bar 4 of a 12-bar blues. So there are many different uses for this lick, not only as an outro for a solo. In any case, try to make that double time feeling part of your blues playing. I think this is a real valuable concept. We're always trying to tell a certain story with our guitar, and more than often that story is not just the notes that you play, but it's also the rhythm that you use to play these notes. And that double time concept in blues is very valuable to tell your story in a very expressive and rhythmical way. So that's why I wanted to share it with you. I hope to see you again in the next video. Bye bye.